A large part of the OCD recovery journey is seeing that judgment isn't anything to be concerned about at all. Take, for example, if I decided, hey, I think I'm going to wear all black, how many people do you think would start asking me, are you all right? Why have you suddenly changed this? What's wrong with you? Then when I walk away, something's weird with that guy. He's wearing all black all the time, right? That's just if I change my clothes to black, right? So imagine all the other things that people are judging on all the time. Now, when you start thinking about that, you start to realize that it doesn't actually matter at all. People are so concerned about how they look. Like, I was speaking to a girl the other day who was 20, maybe 24, 25, a friend of a friend's. And I was looking at how many selfies she was taking on her phone. And it literally had hundreds. Like, when we would be sitting, she would be taking one selfie. Then I'd look at the cat, I'd look at her on her phone, and she'd have like 20 of just that one angle there from that moment. That must be so tiring. And all of it for, did I get a like? Did I get a like by my ex-boyfriend? Did I get a like by my friend? Who liked it? All of that. And I can imagine how addictive and fun that is if you want to play that game, because you are playing a game, right? That's what people don't realize. It's like in life, if you really care so much what people think, you'll direct your whole life around it. Most humans do that. Most humans are thinking, if I get that car, people will think this about me. If I go on this holiday and take a photo, people will think this about me, right? How much stuff in your life are you doing because you want people to think something about you, right? People go on holidays just to places where they think, oh, if I go there, I'll get some great photos. And then people will think I'm cool for X, Y, Z. And that is a really slippery slope. So you really want to, you can do a bit of that by all means. Like, the goal is not to become so stoic that you don't want to engage in anything, right? If I was that didn't care about anything, I would just wear clothes I didn't give a shit about at all, right? And that is not reality. I like to buy a nice shirt. I like to buy nice trousers, right? I would still like to drive a nice car, right? I actually don't drive anywhere. I walk everywhere. But all those things are, you kind of get involved in enough of them in society, but you've got to balance them. If you're going to get into a world of really wanting to be seen on Instagram, really wanting to have loads of likes, really wanting to have loads of photos, like, I'm very aware that if I didn't work with OCD and need to meet a lot of people with OCD because of the nature of helping people, they've got to be able to see me on Instagram, and then they can reach out to me, and then we can help them with OCD. If that wasn't the case, I wouldn't be on Instagram. I wouldn't be on any social media. I would WhatsApp people, friends, family, and so on. If I had OCD and I was struggling, I would love being in parts of these like WhatsApp groups and so on. But as for Instagram and so on, I very much doubt I'd have any social media. Now, that might change if I had a girlfriend or I had kids and they wanted me to be a bit a part of it. Say I had a daughter or something, and she did lots of TikTok videos. She wanted me to sometimes be in them and it made her really happy. I'd probably do it, right? So it's a balance. Like, whenever I'm dating someone, it's pretty hard to get around this whole photo stuff. They always get annoyed with me and say, like, Robert, you don't want to be in any photos. You don't like me taking photos of any of our holidays or anything. And like, I need to have some because I can't even show my friends you in anything. So I say, yeah, I'd rather not be in the photos, but if you want me to be in them, yeah, I can do them on occasion, but I just don't want to be in a lot. And that's the reality of it, right? But different people are different. Some people, I see them, they walk down the street, they see a car, they take a photo of a car that's not even theirs. This is beyond me in terms of like thinking, why would you want to do it? But I understand why. I understand why people want to do it, because they want those likes. They want people to think things. But it just doesn't appeal to me. The more you do those things, the more you fuel the cycle of needing to be accepted. Right? So if you are constantly getting clothes just to feel like you like yourself, like, like, say if I go into a shop, right, and I buy a nice suit, yeah, and I look in the mirror, yeah, in those minutes you feel, oh, this feels good, right? How quickly does that wear off? How quickly does anything wear off? Think of the restaurant that you really like, the most amazing restaurant. Go there 7 times a week. You get boring. Every single thing that you think's exciting wears off. That's why we have to keep doing new things. The dream house that you think you'll always be happy with. Yeah, a lot of things will make you happy about it, but after a while, it will wear off in lots of ways, right? If that wasn't the case, every human in those things would be smiling ear to ear all the time, right? Just think of COVID, right? I like where I live. I really like where I live, right? But in COVID, I was stuck in my place, right? And I started to hate it. I dreamed of just being outside, right? So that kind of stuff, it wears off. And do you remember when we were in COVID, what we all used to think? We used to think, oh my God, it's going to be like the roaring 20s. We're going to go out. Everyone's going to be having so much fun. Everyone's going to be so happy to get out. Once we got out again, life went back to normal. Same thing, you forget about it all. There was loads of things I loved about COVID time, watching films, speaking to my family, watching the same films, all those kind of things, simple life. I liked it. There's a bar that's not far from where my parents live, and all the people do is play dominoes in there and have beers, right? And when I walk past there, they're people that are playing the dominoes and having beer. They're retired people. They're older. They haven't got much money, and that's what their happiness is, right? And when I walk past that place and I go in there and have a sandwich, I always think, look at their situation here. They're quite content with that situation. Now, I'm in the world of the mind, right? I understand how people think. So my mum will often say to me, she'll say, look, you see these guys, very simple life, so happy. My mum's nearly 80, right? And she'll say, it's great to see people that are so content in that way. I said, Mum, it's not completely true. And she said, what do you mean? I said, it's not true at all. There'll be situations, everyone's got their own problems in different demographics. They'll be having a problem because one of them can't pay the bills for the medical, for their wife, or for their daughter's school or whatever. So a lot of their life will seem simplistic and happy, but it's not perfect. The same as if you go rich, the rich doesn't have all the same things, because what happens is the brain adapts and always wants more and always has problems. If that was the case, all rich people would have no problems. And if that was the case, that simplicity, all people with nothing to lose would also have no problems. It's not true. Like, if you take me, for example, right, with my mindset, yeah, not factoring in anything to do with what I can afford or what I can't afford, but if I just think of my mindset, yes, I'm very rational and very calm, but that doesn't mean you still don't have problems. You do. I'm a human being. There are still problems. Remember, I'm a single guy. So I still think like, oh, I'm going on a date with that person. Yeah, I wish her personality was like this. If it had been, that'd have been better. But that doesn't bother me because I'm very content being single too. And I'm very content being in a relationship. I like both. I was in a relationship for 2.5 years. And she always used to say to me, she said, Robert, you know, the thing about you, you'd be so content even if I wasn't here. And I said, no, but I much prefer you being here. I much prefer the relationship, but I would also be content that way, right? And it's like you're content and you have a good level of acceptance, but at the same time, there's going to be things that you want, things that you can't have. Maybe my parents are older, they're in their 80s. I wish they were a bit younger. I'd pay a lot of money for my parents to be 60. Right? Because that would mean I've got 20, 30 more years with them. And I don't have to constantly think, how long have they got? What can we fit in and do before, they're not here? So those kind of things, right? It doesn't bother me psychologically, but it'd be an improvement. My dad had me very late, And if you think about all those different things in life and you start to weigh them up, you see problems everywhere. People always think when they haven't got money, there'll be no problems when they've got money. People always think when they've got money that they should be happier because they're in a better situation. It doesn't work like that. The brain is always looking for the next thing to do. It's always looking, it doesn't want to be content. That's how it survives, right? Sometimes I watch films and I think, oh my God, I need to watch more films. This is unbelievable. I'm loving this film. I've got to watch a lot more films. I remember when I first started watching films by the director, Pedro Moldovar, I started watching a lot of them and I thought, oh, these are unbelievable. But then you get sick of them. You get sick of anything. Right? I love the series The Sopranos. I watched the whole series 3 times. I love it. It's one of the best series ever. If I watched it 4, 5, 6, it's not the same. Same for Breaking Bad. I've seen it 2, 3 times, And all right, I'm a bit obsessive with a lot of things that I do and I get into them, but they wears off, So you've got to think of things like that. People don't realize it. People don't realize it because they don't really think about things deeply enough. No, they don't think about, they often haven't reflected on things with the rational thinking that gives you that insight into it, or they feel trapped and haven't found a way to change that perspective. You'll find many married couples that would really like to be split up and having freedom to do things. You'll find many single people that would love to be in a couple, right? These things aren't clean cut. I speak to people of all different ages. I speak to women in their 60s and 70s that tell me they're the happiest ever because they're single. And they genuinely are. Because their life was very different when they were in a relationship. I meet people who are single that get into a relationship and have the best life because they're in a relationship, but then get carried away and think, oh my God, I would hate to be single. It would be terrible. I realize being single is absolutely fine. If I was never married, absolutely fine. If I never had any kids, absolutely fine. Right? If I get married, absolutely fine. If I have kids, absolutely fine. It doesn't make any difference. Right? Because, look, don't get me wrong. When I was in my last relationship, and we were living together and we went out. It does feel magical, right? You go to restaurants, you spend time together, every sort of song and night out. It feels like another level. It feels like the old life was bland, right? But it wasn't always like that. Your memory reminds you of all the great times. But loads of times when we're in at home and doing different things, or she's around me a lot and wanting to do a lot of things and wanting me to do a lot of things with her, I think, oh, I'd rather be on my own today, right? It's not perfect. Your mind looks at things with rose-tinted glasses, okay? Your mind looks at things with rose-tinted glasses. It's like you could debate left, right, and centre. People always love to debate this one. Jordan Peterson often does it with a very black and white view that men should have kids and a family, otherwise they've completely wasted their life. What a load of shit. That's crap, right? That's a load of rubbish. It's because if that's his belief, because he holds that so strongly. Elon Musk often says that one as well. It's not true at all, right? Yes, there's nobody can give a definitive answer on whether it's a good idea to have kids or not with solid advice, right? There's pros and cons to both. I have no doubt if I have kids, it's going to bring so many great things to my life. But I also realize there's so many great things I could do without them. People then tend to generalize and say it's the only way to be happy. That's not true. That's not true. And it's the same with married. It's the same with pets. Do you know how many animals I've had in my life? I think about 25, right? Because my mum, we used to have a couple of birds in the house, one or two dogs, guinea pigs, all these things, right? And they were all, when one died, you'd replace them. So there was a lot of animals, yeah? And I remember my mum got to about, what did she get to, about 60 or something. And she said, I don't want any more pets. And I said, but you love dogs. My mum absolutely loves dogs. She goes to dog shows and everything. She said, yeah, but I travel a lot and I don't want the responsibility of a dog anymore. It's so much responsibility having to find somebody to look after the dog whenever you go away. I love them. They're so great in my life, but I can get that feeling going and visiting someone else's dog. Or she uses this friend of hers company that lets you borrow a dog for a couple of days or something. And she does that from time to time. And she's like, just having that freedom of not having to think, oh, this dog's got to go to someone when I go away, or, all those things, or having to walk the dog every single night. And she just decided, I don't want the responsibility of it anymore, right? But you know what she says to me all the time? She says to me, you got to get a dog. It'd be great for you. You like to walk in the evening. It'd be perfect. I say, yeah, but I travel a lot as well. I don't want to have a dog because of the same reasons, right? But I absolutely love dogs. I actually found a dog yesterday. I was walking down the street and found a random dog that was walking along, and I looked on its collar and I rang the person, and the woman had been looking for a dog for like half the day. Anyway, I found this woman. I gave her back her dog. She barely even said thank you. I bet, and she didn't have the dog on a lead. I bet she loses the dog again in a few days. But it was lovely seeing that dog. And as soon as I saw it and the sort of unconditional love from the dog, it's an amazing feeling. But again, it's tricky because of all the things that you need to do with a dog. So there's pros and cons to having a dog. Do I love dogs? Yes. Would I have one? The cons for me outweigh it at the moment, right? If I go into a relationship now and I have kids, I'll probably get a dog, right? Because it's good for all of that. If I don't, probably won't. Now, when you start to look at life in pros and cons, you start to see life in a much broader sense, right? You've got to view things as pros and cons in all areas of life, right? If I decide to eat junk food, it's cons, I'm going to get fat, right? If I decide to only eat healthy, it might be not as exciting. So I might lose some of that and that freedom to be able to eat what I want, right? There's pros and cons to everything. People don't realize this. People think if you said to the average person, What do you need to be happy? The first thing they say is money. Second thing they tend to say is car. Third thing they tend to say is beautiful partner. And fourth thing they tend to say is health, right? Well, firstly, you want health because that's the main thing, because that tends to reflect how you feel throughout the day, right? The other ones is diminishing returns, and it's not what you think. Studies of lottery winners versus wheelchair users show wheelchair users are happier than lottery winners. And you would say, how the fuck is that possible? They're obviously not smart and don't know how to use it. Well, because when you are in a position of losing something, it forces you to have more gratitude for other things and cuts out a lot of the nonsense. So that's why you get that shift in something that you think is the opposite. Now, let's imagine that you work in the local bakery and you suddenly win £100 million on some Euro lottery, right? What do you suddenly do? You buy a house, you put money in the bank. But because you've won it, you try fending off all the people who now think they're entitled to the money, right? You've then got to give them some. They always think it's not enough. They then loathe you and hate you. They then hate you, right? Even though you gave them the money. It's what always would happen in that situation, right? So in those situations, what people dream it to be like, it's never the case. It's never the case of what people think. That doesn't mean all lottery winners are miserable. I'm sure there's lottery winners out there that are very content. But usually what happens is the things that we think that make us happy is different. I remember when I was really ill once and my mum made me a steak and kidney pie with my parents and my sister. And I thought that was such a great day because of the gratitude with that. Then other times some of the greatest days was just like going for a long run, feeling great, starting a new relationship, being in a nightclub after a few drinks with friends, all things, having a nice glass of wine on a holiday with a good steak overlooking the sea. These kind of things are fantastic, right? But they're not fantastic repeated. And of course, you can also paint a recipe for what's not good. If you don't have enough money to pay the bills, you've not got a partner, you're living in an apartment where there's like damp and a broken boiler, you've also got OCD, right? It's pretty bleak in terms of when you're looking at it with all the wrong perspectives. But that's when you become rational, you stubbornly refuse to make yourself miserable and use comparison to other things. You start to enjoy it. Oh my God, I'm so grateful. I do that all the time. Anything that goes wrong, I say, I'm so lucky to be able to eat tonight and not be ill. Oh my God, think of when you have the flu. I'm so grateful not to have the flu. When you really anchor into that, if I'm not in fucking hospital, I am so happy. If I'm not in jail, I'm so happy. Hospital's the worst one. Being ill with terminal illness would obviously be worse, but obviously you can have the freedom by accepting death, which we're all going to pass away. Then the being in prison would be bad. Being ill in prison would be bad, right? So if you're in your bed, able to watch a Netflix film without the flu, right? Able to have a workout, able to go for a walk, that's pretty good. But people put these ridiculous things on themselves. If I ask the average young guy, they'd be like, people say this to me all the time. They're like, yeah, Rob, if I'm not a millionaire before I'm 28 and I haven't got a 10 out of 10 girl, then I'm just not going to be happy. And it's like, yeah, okay, let me explain that. If that was true, all the humans who don't have that couldn't be happy, right? People have ridiculous ideas of what happiness equals. I'm not saying don't get the car you want. I'm not saying don't get the girlfriend you want. But you are conditionally putting a point on yourself because of influences you watch online and saying, I've got to have this to be happy. If that was true, no one would sell any cars. Think of your dream car. Go on a website that sells cars and have a look at how many of your dream car are for sale. Someone is selling them. Why? Because they got bored or whatever reason. Then have a look at the mileage on that car. Those cars are being sold after 3,000 miles. Why? Because someone got bored quickly. People are breaking up with your dream partner. Think of your dream celebrity partner. Someone's broken up with them usually, right? Things aren't what people think they are. People think, if I had that, I'll be happy. If I had her or him, I'll be happy. It's not like that in reality, right? Everything wears down. When I'm really hungry and I want a hamburger, give me 6 hamburgers. I don't want to eat another hamburger after 2. Okay? It wears off. If you're really aware of that, it will change your life. Most people are not aware of that. Most people have some understanding, but rarely. Think about how many people go out and drink till they feel so horrendous the next day. Think about how many people work out to be in shape and think, when I'm in this shape, I'll be happy. And then they never get to that shape because there's always more. If somebody earns £1,000 a month, they think if I earn £2,000 a month, I'll be happy. When they earn 2,000, they think 3, 4, 5. and it goes on forever, right? If that wasn't the case, everything would just be one thing, right? And everyone would be happy with that. Let's use an example of pornography. If pornography just made people happy, there'd be one video that everyone watches and is content. And that one video would just change every week for a bit of change, and everyone would watch that one video. They're not. They're thousands, hundreds of thousands of clips to tap into your brain exactly what you want and then change to the next thing. And then people are moving from one clip to the next every few minutes, every few seconds, chasing, chasing, chasing. Be aware of all of this in your whole life, and you will learn to be grateful for the moment. You will learn to be grateful with what you've got. You have got to be aware you are going to want more and more and more. Even people who say they're content as they are, because they've got a human brain, are still thinking for more. Okay? You are trained to do that. That's why when people have ROCD, they think and they say, like, I should never look at another partner. I am completely okay with a partner. That is a complete crap. Anyone in a relationship, no matter how much they love their partner, if someone hot, attractive, is at all interested in them, they think about it. Even if you completely love the partner and everyone feels irrelevant because you love them, right? You don't think your brain doesn't think it? Yeah, when you're madly in love and it's the early days or whatever, yeah, your brain not sort of goes, oh, who cares about them? My partner's the best. It's not worth it. But what happens is on the down times or whatever, your brain will notice it. Your brain will think it, right? Because your brain is designed to look for more. It's not designed to be content. Otherwise, humans would have not moved villages, would have not crossed the seas, would have not done any of that, right? It's very important to think about these things. I often think about these things across history. My great, 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 great grandfather was Captain Cook, who discovered Australia. And in my house, there is a painting of Captain Cook. And I look at it sometimes and I think to myself, he had to go across the seas, not knowing what he was going to come across. All the people in his boat, all the sailors probably fighting, diseases, everything that could go on. It would have been very hard to maintain that ship. They didn't know where they were going to land, traveling across all the waves at night. Imagine how many people died. Imagine how ill people got. Imagine people trying to take out the captain and stuff like that. All these different things, right? And, you know, I was reading a book on all of his life and history, and obviously he got killed. And I just think of like all the obstacles that he would have had to overcome in that time, and all the uncertainty that would have had to come. And because why were they doing that? Because you want to see what's on the other side. You want to see what's another what could be the better life, what could be there, right? And those things come with pros and cons because the human brain is going to do that, right? The human brain is always going to do that. Yeah, it's the same as like when people say things like, with countries, oh, we should build a wall to keep the other people out, right? The other side of the other country out, right? Not going into politics here, but there's obviously pros and cons to building walls. But the problem with building walls, one of the main problems, is that when you build a wall, the people on one side of the wall think what's on the other side of that wall that's so great they want to keep us out from it. And then they're completely intrigued and obsessed with getting to the other side of that wall because it feels like another land that they must get to. And then they'll risk anything to get there. That is one of the problems with building walls, right? I'm not saying I'm in favor or against building walls, but I'm saying that is one of the problems. So when you really think about all these things and how the mind is always chasing more, and your mind is going to want to always chase more, just think of your life as a human, right? You eat an amazing meal. Your brain thinks, but there could be another amazing meal more better than this. You have sex with the person that you think, oh my God, if I have sex with them, the sex will be amazing and I will be content. And your brain goes, but sex could be better with someone else. Sex could be different. Sex could be this. Right, why? Think of even the emotions involved in sex. What's happening? The brain is building and building up excitement, 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 and it promises the most excitement. And what happens after the most excitement? You get a bit of relief of excitement and high endorphins and oxytocin, all these, you get all these different emotions in the brain. And then suddenly afterwards, it fades down. Same as after a big meal, you eat a big hamburger and then it fades down, right? Everything is promising a chase, giving you a bit of freedom, and then it's on to the next thing. Think of all those things that are like that. Be very aware of that. Be very aware, because OCD operates in many of the same ways. If you get over this, then it won't latch again. If you get over this, then you'll be free. If you just have kids, then you'll be content. If you just buy the car, you'll be content. If you have the house and the kids, you'll be content. If you have the mortgage paid off, you'll be content. No, you won't. No, you won't. How can you say that, Rob? How can you say that? I see people that have their mortgage paid off and they look very content. You don't know in their minds. Yes, they're content in general enough, but they will always want more to some extent. That's not true, Rob. I've met somebody who says that they are content and they don't want anything more and they're very happy just doing their job. Put the more thing in front of their face where they've got a chance of getting it and see if they don't go for it. Humans will want more. Humans will be enticed by things. Be aware of that, and then you have an understanding of how your mind is trying to operate, and it gives you a much better chance of being content, working towards things, being more happy in general, but learning to have more balance.